Hello all you shining stars and welcome to my channel, Shining Star Soup. It's Storytime Sunday and I'm doing a little mini series called Crazy Relationships where I talk about the crazy relationships from my past for about a little under 10 minutes because I can't seem to ramble on for more than 8 minutes with these stories. And I'm not sure how long this story will be. Alright, so my best friend and I, we were living in Edmonton together and she was working at Fast Gas, and she was telling me about this guy that was really cute, and his name we will call him Ross. We'll call him Ross. And Ross was, when I first met him, he was cute, and I had been single for a while, and I definitely had my eyes set on him, right? I was like, okay, okay. So, we had our little first date where I asked him how old he was, and he told me he was like, I was like 22 at the time, maybe, probably younger, probably like in my early 20s. We'll just say early 20s. And he told me he was 26 years old or 24 years old. 24 years old is what he told me, and this is significant. And so I started spending time with him, and like we went. He was nice. He was a decent guy. He wasn't like mean to me or anything. He had no problem, holding my hand in public or anything like that. And we went to the movies, and we hung around the city together, and we hung around at his place. Now, but him and we had only dated for a couple weeks, and there was a good reason for this. So, what I ended up eventually finding out about Ross was that first, he was not 24. He was not the age that he told me he was. And me, I didn't think much of it, but it turned out that he was like 36. 36 years old. Yeah, he told me he was 24, he was actually 36. That was the first lie that I found out about him. The second lie that I found out was that he was actually in a halfway house. Like he had been to prison, and I don't remember what it was for. It wasn't anything bad like the major crimes, but it was maybe a thief or something. I don't remember, but he was like in this um I guess a halfway house. I don't know if that's the term you want to use. I'm not quite sure how the justice system and the police work. I mean, I've never done anything to warrant being in the know. But yeah, so he was turned out to be very, very shady. And yeah, that was a very short story. Uh, and I'm looking at my little list of the volumes I want to do, and I think under 4 minutes is a bit too short. So I'm going to combine a couple stories here. So that was Ross, uh, my story of the guy that worked at Fast Gas, who my best friend thought would be a good fit for me, turned out not to be a very good fit at all. And she's done that to me a couple times, but that's not her fault. Sometimes you get hooked up with somebody and the relationships just don't work. Um, but let's jump into. I'm gonna combine the one I was planning for next week because I still have a couple. I wanted to do this for this little series for 2 months. So we're gonna jump into. I'm trying to think of a name I can call him. Jack. Jack. Jack was another one that I met online, and another one that I wrote with. I did a lot of online dating in the past. And Jack was very accommodating. We'll just say that. Very accommodating. He was the kind of guy that would do anything, literally anything. And this guy, um, he uh, he brought out kind of not really mean, but I did not like who I became when I was with him, just because he was so too accommodating. Like, he didn't have his own identity. He just was my boyfriend. We'll just say that. And he was from the States, but he did literally everything for me. Like, and it was my fault. I got kind of cruel, but not really cruel, kind of demeaning. And it was definitely not, when I look back on it now, at the time I didn't think much of it. I didn't realize how distasteful I was being. As far as, you know, I was really into Buffy, and he went and bleached his hair blonde because I really like Spike. So he bleached his hair blonde, and I nared him because he was really hairy, and I guess that wasn't so bad. He was fine with it. He was like, "No, I don't want as much hair," and he's like, "I want to dye my hair blonde," so he did that, and he would do jumping jacks. And he was a decent cook, but I didn't like who I became when I was with him. And even though he was a sweetheart, I wish I would have treated him better. I definitely think that he was one of those people that he was just too nice and too much of a doormat. And I will take the blame and own up to the fact that I should have been better to him, and I should have I should have been smart, because he was a relationship that didn't work, and if it did, I wouldn't have been with who I'm with now, because who I'm with now was actually met this guy, and he kind of smartened me up and said, "Okay, look, you're not being very nice. You are, yeah." So, lesson learned. I did apologize, and but this kid, he was still forgiving, and he was like, "I don't see anything wrong with it. Like, I like it." And the funny thing is, there are relationships like that. There are, and I'm gonna go into like dominant and submissive and mistresses and masters. There is a whole culture like this, and unfortunately, and they're where it's acceptable, and that's just who they are, and they have that level of trust, right? And they say, do a jumping jack, or I want you to whatever, right? That's a kind of, and I think he was that type of guy, but he was the submissive, and he was there's all sorts of words. After reading and watching 50 Shades of Grey, I started doing my research. And I was like, okay, I can never be the dominant. I can never be the mistress. I can never be the. But some people are into that, and that's what they know, and that's what they're comfortable with, and that's their safe place. And I think that guy was the one who wanted that kind of relationship, and I think that's why he was so eager to please, and why he that was just who he was. But unfortunately, that wasn't who I am. So I'm hoping that, even though our relationship ended on a decent note, I mean, he wasn't bitter. He liked it. That was just who he was. It took me a while to realize it, but yeah. So that was that story. Those combinations of stories are going to wrap up my Storytime Sunday. All right, I hope all you shining stars have a shining star day. I kind of rambled in this one, even though that wasn't my intention, but hey, that's what you're here for, right? Or I don't know. Maybe you were just bored and say, "Oh, look at this almost 10-minute video. Play, and I'll go do some laundry." All right, guys. All you shining stars. Bye bye.